Hello, Coach Tony here for a Q&A with Patrice Matteson. We're getting ready to launch a very special sales coaching package run by Patrice that probably will be available to everyone, but specifically we think it's special because it will help coaches grow their own businesses. And that package is going to be based, there are a lot of different ways to do sales. That package is going to be based around prospecting within your network and the events around you. So Patrice, welcome. We're going to ask you questions, but before we get going, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into coaching?
My name is Patrice Matteson, and I have been working with entrepreneurs and home-based businesses. I was trying to think, probably over 25 years. I had a home-based business and learned a lot of techniques and processes and found that I wanted to share those with others. So processes for prospecting, for conversation, calling people on the phone, for marketing, sales strategies, and have been sharing that for several years.
That's fantastic. As far as the beginning intro goes, I think we'll get much deeper. Rifna, do you want to lead us off with the question?
Well, my coaching so far, I've been with coaching like pretty much since the beginning you got coached. I think I was in the second batch of coach that came in. And when I do habit coaching, I get pretty much a steady flow of clients straight from you guys. But I've never been able to pick up like marketing for myself. All the people I know, I kind of coach it unofficially on and off. So I'm not able to bring anyone in onto a platform where they would pay me. And I try also bumping like over the habit coaching, like doing more package coaching, and I have no idea how to market that. So I would like more idea on that side. So where would you start? Like if you have like tons of awesome testimonial, like I'm on your top coach because my stats are excellent, but where do you start from there?
Great. May I ask what your topic or your specialty in coaching is?
What I coach most is about creativity and dealing with depression. So I'm a lot, my clients are often perfectionists or people that really want to like go beyond what they do in their life, but they expect too much of themselves. So I kind of help them balance and, the concept of gap vs gain. I help them transition from a gap perspective or the gain perspective and to build their own gain mentality from it.
Great. I think one of the things that I do a lot in coaching is just to help people to know when you're talking to your friends or family, when they ask you, what do you do? I think that that's where we really need some clarity on how we can share that with them very simply so they understand it, but also so they can refer people to you. Tony, do you want to share a little bit about kind of how we worked through that a little bit?
Sure. So first of all, Patrice is coached me recently. And so I've been through the package we're putting together for the coaches. And for a long time, I described this company in the same way I advise coaches not to describe their own business. We're so attracted to the what do we do and how do we do it, that's what we tell people. So when people ask me, what do I do? A lot of times I'll say, I run this amazing coaching directory. And it just kind of fell flat because that's the what. And it doesn't really get at the what do I do for them, or, I was never getting a real emotional connection. So the very first session that Patrice and I worked, we worked on this, just how do I answer that question? What do I do? And I ended up changing it to I'm an evangelist for the coaching industry. And it's funny that word evangelism completely changed the emotional structure of the conversation. And because, so first of all, it's about what's good about the coaching industry. Because if I don't say that, a lot of times the people I talk to would be like, I heard about these coaches that aren't, I don't know, maybe they'd heard some wild story. So, obviously here we're working with a really high caliber of coach and, with great track records. So I changed it that way. And then once they leaned in, I could say, mostly my job is to play matchmaker between, by sourcing top productivity, business, and health coaches, and then trying to find a match for them. And that word matchmaker, then suddenly I'm in a conversation. People know what I do now, and now I get emails where I never used to get emails, but now I get emails all the time saying, "Hey, my friend is looking for an executive coach." I mean, my friends are all entrepreneurs, so they ask for executive coaches. It's just sort of that's the what I get asked in my network. But I really credit Patrice with helping me get out of that rut of, like, Rifna, as you said, like when you said gap to gain, like that's you talking about the how, like that's as I understand it. So Patrice, that's my summary of session 1.
So I think that's exactly session 1, is to help you to feel really comfortable when people ask you that, and help you kind of to work with the wording of that. Again, so you have clarity, but that you can share that easily. And again, when you share that, I think we do see people leaning in. And I do think that creates a lot of referrals for other people, because you now have given them a specific, not job description, but specifically what you do that can benefit other people. I think really that's our number one mission, is to find people who want to do business with us. And I like to share too that we're really in the sorting business. We're not in the convincing business. And we're out there sorting for people who we can help. Whether we coach ourselves or if we can refer them to someone else in the Coach.me network. And I really think that's our mission. And I help people to kind of learn how to do that sorting.
That sorting versus convincing concept is like one of the things I've been quoting a lot since then. Stefan, I might unmute you. There you go. Stefan, do you have a question?
We clicked at the same time.
That's right.
I think my question relates more to what you could summarize as maybe upselling. So I do have, I got into more seriously getting into building a coaching business for about a year now. I live in Brazil, so I've done some local stuff, and I'm trying to expand to have more international clients. And I've also started getting more traction on Coach Me with habit clients, etc. And I found it a really great way of, getting initial people in, either by me bringing them in on Coach Me or by being referred through the platform or from other coaches. But then they rarely go deeper. So, this is sort of a two-part question. One is, do you have any idea of, is the typical audience that comes to Coach Me one that wouldn't go for a deeper coaching process? That would be part for Tony, and part for Patrice. How do you, I've seen on your profile, you also do habit coaching. Do you have a lot of clients that start with habit coaching and then go for your more in-depth package with calls, etc.? How do you get them to take the next step when you perceive it's not just about creating one habit and you do it by writing, but there's some deeper problem that they need to solve and you can solve it? And then how do you get them to do that? Because in writing it's just cumbersome and it takes a long time and usually is more frustrating than successful.
One of the things too that I like to coach with people is what I call fact finding or discovery questions. And I think as we become more skilled in asking questions, open-ended questions, to reveal people's needs, it helps them to kind of clarify those needs and see those needs, and then they'll want to be coached in those needs. So for instance, good fact-finding questions, and what I also help people with are, again, open-ended, which means they don't end in a yes or no. So you might say, what challenges are you facing in? Or is there, if there's one thing you could change about, or what would your perfect day look like, or what would your perfect vacation look like? If you can ask those kinds of questions to reveal their needs, that helps them to kind of dig a little bit deeper without you telling them, but you're, again, unfolding and kind of fact-finding with them. So
I usually don't have trouble getting that there to that point. It's the I've tried also a couple of times of suggesting a sort of a complimentary phone call for them to see how it is to be on a phone call. For only one person, it went actually further. The rest just take the call and then go back to writing. And there's this sort of hurdle of, yes, I want to do more, but, you know, I'm too comfortable in where I am. So maybe I need to, you know, just challenge them more in that and say, hey, if you want to change, then that's the way. Otherwise, you know, we're just going to be sitting here in a year from now and at a similar point, but I don't, it doesn't feel good. So
no, I totally understand. I'm very comfortable phone coaching, probably even more so than texting. I think just because of what I've done through the many years. But again, I think that's a great idea to offer that complimentary phone call. And again, I would focus that really specifically on, again, if they could change one thing about, or again, have a whole, you know, several great questions that you're going to ask people, and just see if you can kind of keep peeling back the layers to really see what their need is, or how you could help them, or someone could help them. And again, that's one of the things I do too, is just to help people get really comfortable with those types of questions. But I think that's a great idea, is to offer that, you know, phone consultation. Tony, I'm going to hand it to you.
Yeah, just a plus one part of that, the fact-finding part, is it's the answer, I think, is custom to you. And so I could tell you, I think a coach that does this well is Rob Filardo, but I think he does it well because he understands when and why someone would want a bigger package. And so that implies to me that he already did that fact-finding. So when Patrice says a complimentary call is a good idea, I think I heard that as not just a good idea to hook them, but a good idea to allow you to do that fact-finding. Because if you think people need it, but they don't, there's like a misunderstanding there. And that requires research. And this is one more reason I picked Patrice as the first sales coach, you know, for an educational component around coaches building their business, is that if you build your initial marketing plan around like content marketing, you don't have any interaction with your potential clients, and so you don't learn anything. If you build your initial sales and marketing plan around prospecting, which is what Patrice is going to help you, you're always talking to people, and so that positioning and refinement will happen more naturally. So that's what I'm hearing, Stefan, on that. And we're going to come back to you. Makita, are you here with the question?
I might just have a quick question. I usually focus on, hi Patrice, hi everyone.
Hi.
I usually focus on academic success, so essentially studying and meditation. Those are really my two focuses. So a lot of times I'll get people that are contacting me kind of in freak out mode already. And there's only so much that, you know, I can do around, you know, our foundational goal is to make sure you get that study time in. And so what I'm trying to do and looking forward to 2019 is thinking about packages that are, that do include a discovery call. So I can see where you are in your program without taking a week, you know, to kind of get that back and forth information, and I guess this could be, my initial intake could be a little bit more specific. But do you have any suggestions for, I guess, marketing to people that are kind of at different stages in what they're needing? I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just thinking in like an academic, within an academic term.
I see just some incredible prospecting ideas for you in the academic field. I'm not sure where you live or, you know, what type of schools or, you know, school organizations are near you, but I get really excited about reaching out to them, that maybe you could provide yourself as a speaker at like an event there, or you know, they are always looking for people to come and talk in a class or at an event that they're having at the school, that you could position yourself as a coach for that kind of information. And then people would be seeing you as a coach versus just kind of that last minute, you know, when they're panicking. But I help people too, just to kind of look at some ways to reach out into their community, or reach out to do some things a little bit different, to meet some different people other than just your regular networking, but just speaking. My background is education, and when I was with a company, I provided myself, I tried to call people to see if I could just come in and talk to them about different topics. I talked about parenting topics, and then I sold educational products. So I didn't go in to sell, but I went in to just help people and to provide a service for people. And then people wanted to know more about me and what I did. And then that eventually evolved into a wonderful coaching opportunity.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Makita lives in New York City.
Oh, okay.
Where there is actually a lot of this opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. And the other thing too is I like to help people to come up with those, if that's something that you want to do. I love helping people come up with topics and helping them kind of work their talk. So, you know, what it involves and the title of it and how to market that then to different organizations. So, yeah.
Great.
All right. It's come around to me. And so, you know, one of the goals of these Q&As is that not only might we hire the coach, or the person watching might hire the coach, but a lot of us are looking to refer you. So I'm curious, beyond just coaches, are there types of clients that would be a good fit for you?
Do you want me to start, or do you want me to kind of come in at the end, or how, Tony?
Well, that was maybe the question didn't go through. I was just curious if you could talk about the types of clients that would be good to refer to you. The types of clients that you tend to have a lot of success with and connect with.
I love talking to entrepreneurs. I love helping people in the sales industry because I've been in sales many years. So I work with a lot of clients with sales. So I think probably entrepreneurs, home-based businesses, that whole realm gets me really, really excited to help people. I do executive coaching also. And I also I'm certified in strengths scope. So I can help people to find what energizes them so they can be better at their work and in leadership and collaboration. So I guess those are kind of my...
I feel like home-based business is like a category that maybe it wasn't a term I was using before. So who are specifically in that category?
I think a lot of home-based businesses as network marketers, people who are selling products and work from home, or salespeople in network marketing, direct sales is kind of how that categorizes, I think.
Perfect. Maybe we'll ask some follow-up questions about that, but it's good to know. Was that a pass, Rifna?
I think Stefan had something he wanted to share.
We'll go to Stefan next then.
Unmute. But if Rifna, if you have something, and please go ahead. Okay. My question was, what's the sort of what are the biggest challenges that you encounter with your clients when it comes to sales training? So what are the biggest hurdles that you have to help them overcome?
That's a great question. First of all is prospecting, finding people, finding clients and prospects for their businesses. I find a hurdle in once they find people not knowing what to say, how to ask them for the sale or how to ask them for the appointment. So I have a 7-step telephone process that I share with them to get people engaged and lower the resistance. I do a little bit on presentation and closing with people, but I really find that most people are mostly challenged by the prospecting, finding the clients, and then how to ask. And again, revealing the needs. A lot of people just tell people what they think that the other person wants to hear, where we really need to learn to listen and find out what they're thinking, what they need, what their goals are, what their opinions are. So I find that that's another real challenge for a lot of people. I heard one time that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth because we need to be listening twice as much as we're speaking. And I think a lot of salespeople get so excited about what they're selling or sharing that they don't listen. So I teach even basic things on how to ask the question and then pause and be great listeners.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
Makita?
I guess I think the only question I have at this point is, do you have, I'm hearing that there's a plan that you have that kind of walks people through a certain process. And how long do you usually encourage people to actually go through with that process? I feel like, at least for me mentally, a lot of the block with sales is mental and emotional. So I feel like there's the element of like checking off the boxes, which I get with a lot of my clients, especially when it comes to studying, is yes, I did this, but there's not a mindset shift around it. So I'm curious with your package if there's any focus on kind of not just the action steps, but also the mindset around marketing.
That's a great question. I believe that mindset is important, but I believe that a lot of our mindset comes from having confidence. And I believe that the confidence comes from having a process and a technique. I can really want to learn to play tennis and be a great tennis player and have that desire, but until I learn the fundamentals and practice them, then that doesn't happen. So I really believe that a lot of that confidence comes from having a system and a process and becoming confident in that process. I think I'll let Tony kind of talk about this, but we were talking about a 4-week package, which would be actually 4 phone calls where we could kind of walk through the what do you do, learn how to do some fact finding, learn how to ask people, make that contact, and then kind of step out, and then how do you take that out to the world and how to move that forward. So right now we're looking at a 4-step process through that. And I believe, again, that I think the mindset will follow from having that confidence.
That's exactly how we're thinking of the package. Just as a client, the way I would answer that is I feel like it's not just that Patrice walked me through a process and gave me a process, but like parts of that process were hard and we did it together. And so I thought I got to borrow her confidence a lot in the early steps. I mean, I think this is why for us as coaches, a sales coach is better than a book. That the book just tells you the steps. And I think there's something special that we know that we are capable of doing as coaches to connect, emotionally. Because I absolutely have the same blocks that most coaches do that I don't think of myself as a salesperson. And so, yeah, it just, when you're going through the process on the phone with Patrice, like Patrice's excitement level will change as you get closer and closer to the explanation that, that works. And that feedback loop of Patrice getting more excited for you, I mean, that was really powerful, I thought. Of course, also as coaches, it's hard to explain to a potential client why that is, but we should all get that, like, the coaches do a lot of emotional work, and Patrice definitely is doing that. Since Rifna's walking, I might loop it back to Makeda stole my question, basically. Well, maybe let me stick on that a little bit. I mean, when you work with salespeople, absolutely, they're coming with this mindset of that they are salespeople already, and a coach is definitely coming with more resistance. Although, I think they also have a big need because they have this huge desire. So, what you've mentioned some of them, but like how do you especially tackle the people that resist thinking of themselves as salespeople?
I think one of the roadblocks that I find is that I think we have this idea that salespeople are pushy, and we don't want to be pushy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my thought on salespeople is that we serve, and we don't sell, that we're serving. And when we can have that mindset of serving and helping others and revealing their need and filling their needs, it just puts a whole different mindset on what we do. So that's more the direction that I take with people. I think we're all salespeople in a sense. I mean, if you're a parent, you're selling them on, putting their socks and shoes on. We all are selling something. But again, I think it's that we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to be overpowering. We have these negatives. And if we can block those out and say, what really do we want to do? And I think as coaches, we want to help people. We want to serve. That's who we are. We want to build relationships. We want to improve things. And that's who we are. So how can we best do that? How can we best, serve people? And we have to find out what they need. And so that changes the whole mindset, I think, on, selling.
Right. That when you say sorting, not convincing, that's part of the message that's necessary for people like us to hear. All right. Rifna, do you have a question?
Yes. I hear a lot of the prospecting is like in person, but what if you live in a very small community? Like I was living in PEI, it's the smallest province of Canada, and there's very, very low people in general. So is there a way for prospecting like other than in person?
Yes. Even being in a small community, I think too, just letting that small community know who you are and what you do to help you as referrals. I think, referrals are amazing. So, even in a small area, if you even took 50 people, most people know at least 100 people, there's 5,000 people. So, I mean, there's this big ripple effect. Social media is there, LinkedIn is there. I mean, there's a lot of other social media. I use that. I don't coach that. I mean, I'm not an expert in that at all. But I mean, there's some simple things too on what does it look like? What are you projecting? What are you looking for? What kind of people are you sorting for? Who are you looking for? So I think you can transfer that out. Also, if you start to think of who do you know who doesn't live right in your area. I mean, sometimes it's a matter of looking through your, your address book or your holiday list or whatever, and just, and look back at past acquaintances and past schoolmates and friends or friends of family, and just helping people to just kind of think, we do know a lot of more people than we think. So I think it's just kind of spreading that out a little bit too.
Stefan?
not a concrete question. I just wanted to echo that a lot of the things that have been said is I find the mindset thing I wanted to add to that is I find that really true. I've started a process of prospecting on LinkedIn, which is sort of also part of our network. I have 1,000 connections there, so why not look through and see who I have there and start sending them messages. And the more I have meetings with people, the more refined my message get, the more confident I get, and the better I can also tell my story. And the more I also recognize when something connects with them, when there is a click, when people, you almost can feel it sometimes in the call, is when they hooked onto something that I said. So yeah, just wanted to echo that.
Yeah, I think that's another, I think sales skill is or skill really in anything, is being aware of what's working and being aware of what you're saying when you get that great response. And, when I'm coaching too, I talk about when people are leaning in.
To practice that still.
So I think, just being aware of that and really being attentive and focused on people and seeing when they're kind of moving back away or whether they're leaning in to what you're saying. And then remembering what you did and then perfecting that technique. I think it's the fundamentals. I think when we perfect those fundamentals, the level of everything else we do will rise because of that.
Makita? Pass. It's fair to pass. This is another mindset thing that feels a little bit subtle here, or people get tripped up on, is just I don't know what word to use here, but just I'm going to say brazen because I want you to use a better word. Just the brazenness of talking to everyone. That I feel like, it's like, a question, I'm imagining Rifna in a town of 50 people now, even though that's your number, not hers. And it's like, shouldn't every person in that town know what her job is? She knows what job every other person in the town has, probably. And so, at some level, I'm thinking what we're doing in session 1 is just describing the job title. It's like, because a lot of times the factual job title is not good enough. Right. My partner was a head of business development for a government agency called 18F. Now, the name 18F comes from their physical location, 18th Street and F Street. So it literally tells you nothing about what you did. So everyone in my family knows what she actually did because she had to create a new narrative. I think it's sort of the same probably for all of us as coaches. So, but I hear coaches who are just like, might not have talked to anyone. They're like, who would I talk to? And it's like, are you saying talk to everyone? And you just sort of have this mindset about it that I think is healthier than maybe it's my mindset was.
Than most people.
Yeah.
Oh, my children always used to laugh and say that I could make a friend in an elevator, and I get out of the elevator and we're hugging and, giving each other business cards. So, I love people and I love talking to people, and people are interesting to me. And I know I'm probably on this scale over here, but I still think that everyone that we meet wants to be valued. And I think everyone that we meet wants to, has needs and, wants to be listened to. And I go back to value. I just think I love people and I love finding out about them. And if there's something that I can do to help them in some way, then that's exciting for me. And if I can't, I love to network to send them to the person that can. That's not a strength of everyone. That doesn't energize everyone. So I think in our coaching too, that I just need to be aware of who I'm coaching. And if they're more of an introvert, then you have to look for ways that you can be more comfortable meeting someone. Then maybe Tony, I see you want to say something. I'm going to pass it back over to you. I can tell.
What are the core characteristics of a coach? Like, love people, love helping people. Right.
And be good at asking questions.
And being good at asking questions. Exactly right. This Yeah, a lot of the spark to bring Patrice in came from this doing some other marketing training here and realizing how alien it was for coaches to build a content marketing funnel, which is all analytics, analysis, drip campaigns, and no talking to people at really unless they buy something from you. And so this is the way that Patrice teaches sales is basically as aligned with the coaching personality as I've ever seen. Wait, so I lost track of a round robin. Who are we on? Are we back?
Can I ask a question?
We'll go to Nikita, yeah.
So kind of building off the introvert, just kind of that thought process, I'm curious for you, if you think it matters whether you're an introvert or not. Does that, maybe that's just a narrative that I have in my head that's kind of my defense mechanism. Well, I'm an introvert and I work better one-on-one, versus these are habits and skills you just need to practice. It doesn't matter who you are, what your preference is.
That's a great question. I mean, we all have strengths. We all have things that we get excited about and energized by. And I think that I have seen people in sales who have been extremely introverted and have been just amazing because they have been sometimes even better listeners because they don't always want to speak quickly. They're really good listeners. They're very caring. They're very helpful. They all have these different strengths that you use when you're coaching people or when you're helping people. And so I don't think, I think there was even a research study that was done, and I can't remember exactly when and where. I should look it up, but they tried to find out who made the best leaders. And they found, everybody thought everybody had to be well-rounded, and what they're finding is it wasn't well-rounded, it was more spiky. And what that meant is the best coaches, the best leaders understand who they are. And when we understand who we are, I think that's when we can best serve other people. And so I think that's what makes us a great coach. And different people are drawn to different coaches. And I think that's the beauty of Coach.me, is that there's such a wide variety of not only topics, but people. And so I think that we're all special in our own way. And I think we all coach uniquely and meet people's needs uniquely.
I think I'm going to do this Q&A a little bit different. Let's do it like last call for questions. Does someone, if you have a question, just raise your hand. Okay, Stefan is the last question. And then Patrice, to get you ready, why don't we just have a little bit of time for you to do some fact finding? I mean, here we have 3-4 coaches. And if you have any questions, you can ask them. But first, Stefan's last question.
Okay.
Great. It's not so much about the sales process and more about this, how you strategically, do you have clients on CoachMe and also off of CoachMe? How do you combine the two, or are they just two separate streams of communications? Are the offers aligned? It would be interested to hear more about how you deal with, clients outside and clients in the CoachMe world.
I do have clients outside because I have just developed a lot of coaching over the years. So I do have, and sometimes I've coached people for a month and I've coached people several years. So I do have that as well as the Coach.me. Also, my personal strength is phone. It's just coaching and working with people, either Zoom like this or on the phone. That's probably my specialty, because I do like to hear people and hear their responses, and I do get excited, and sometimes when I'm typing or texting it just doesn't come through. So I have both. So
but do you just to follow up on that, do you when a prospect comes, you have that final discovery call and you both feel, okay, we want to work together, do you pull them onto a CoachMe plan, by default, or it depends on the person, or what's the sort of relationship that specific clients have with your different offers?
When they come through Coach.me, we use that platform. There are some people that have come off of Coach.me and then contacted me later, and I've done a little bit of follow-up with them. But I think I'm trying to kind of figure all of that out to have the best package and the best way to meet people's needs too. Because I have this, like I said, I've probably coached 20 years, so I do have kind of a process that I use for people who aren't aware of Coach.me, but I'm trying to guide and trying to work this to blend it more together too. So I may be talking to Tony about how to do all that too as we move forward. So.
It's a rule here that we're not allowed to get diverted by forcing me to answer product questions. We're working on it. We're working on it. All right. Patrice, does that make sense to you, that maybe we could give you a little bit of chance to ask your own questions?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
I love just knowing, I think some of it has come through with their questions, but it's always interesting to me to find out what are your greatest challenges in building your businesses. And I think we've heard a little bit about that, but does anybody else want to share any other challenges that you're finding? Or my other question would be is, what would your perfect Coach.me business look like?
Who's ready to answer first? Makita, then Rifna, then Stefan.
I think I kind of spoke, before about the challenge about, I'm an introvert and producing content is challenging for me, so I don't have that kind of outreach. But what my ideal coaching on CoachMe would look like, that's exciting for me. I would love to see CoachMe in after-school programs where using, I'm not sure how exactly this would work out, but essentially there's a specific time of day where the teens or the kids that are in the after-school program have access to iPads or have access to their phones or whatever to kind of check in. So they're doing habit formation so that the teachers and the after-school providers have data to give to their program directors so that they can get grants to continue after-school help. So that's kind of ideally what I would like to do.
Love that. That's awesome. Great idea.
Patrice, can I just tell you how bad I am at making connections, even though I love it so much? Makita, my sister is the head of technology for a school district in California, and we should just have the two of you talk.
I just started doing some research on different, essentially sales funnels, where, if I want to work in education, how do I talk to people? So that's ideally what my CoachMe would look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Patrice, are you ready for Rifna?
Yes.
All right, Rifna, you're up.
Okay, so my main challenge is prospecting other than the references from CoachMe. One of the reasons for that is that I move around a lot, and I often end up in smaller communities too. So while Tony, you wear one zero short, it wasn't 50 people, it was 500 people. And yes, everyone knew what I was doing, but that wasn't crazy and anymore. My ideal coaching would be a way for my practice, it would be that I'm able to get international clients all the time, so that I find a way to not be attached to a single place to be able to process. And for coaching itself, I want to see more writers and more artists on there, because I've been going around with communities and they have features for specific things, but I think they need coach. They need someone that's going to be there and art agnostic, so that they don't compare themselves to their coach, not about the coach being better than you at what you do. It's you becoming better at what you do. So I would like that there's like more of a artistic section of coaching, so that the artists can join together and coach as well.
Okay. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, just the audio was like only so on that. Patrice, did you get it enough, like a gist of it?
I think I did, but I'm so sorry. It is a little bit hard. The audio was a little bit hard to hear. But you said you wanted to reach out to more. Did you say in the arts? Was that correct? Did I hear that correct?
I'm sorry, I just keep pressing.
Yeah, Tony, I don't know that I got enough of the information, so we might need to, maybe let her get that to me and I can answer for.
Right. Rifna, if you have questions, more questions, I think you can ask Patrice through Slack. But we're just going to roll with technical difficulties as we always do. Stefan, you're up next.
Thanks. In terms of my biggest challenge, I think it resumes to putting myself out there. When you earlier asked, you asked Rifna, I believe. So if you have only 50 people in the or Tony was saying that, so then they should all know what you're doing. I was thinking, I don't want all of my close friends to know everything I'm doing, and so I think that is my biggest challenge. I've gotten much better at it. So I've worked always on things that are acceptable and haven't put myself out in the way that I really like to be. And I've worked a lot on that over the last years.
What's your biggest hesitation in letting them know what you do?
I don't know. It's a very irrational fear. I'm still working things out. So there are some deep issues that.
Okay.
You said this word acceptable. I'd love to hear more about that. So
I think one of the patterns that I discovered a couple of years ago is that almost all of my jobs, when I was employed, but then also when I started being self-employed, I tucked myself onto somebody else and basically helped them fulfill their vision. So I've never gotten to the point where I said, this is actually my vision and I want to make it a reality. And it's only been the last 2 years that I'm actually working on that. So I did realize that coaching for me is a big part of that. And it's a matter of who do I work with and how do I work. And I think I specifically struggle with talking about, in this context, it's actually not that difficult. Talking about spiritual aspects of personal development, which interest me very much, and which I've discovered to be big drivers of my own growth. So acceptable in the sense of, there's somebody with a vision that I can just follow and help it happen. And then after 2 years, I realize it's not really what I want. So I drop out and go for the next leader, if you will. That was sort of the pattern I had. In terms of my ideal Coach Me business, I think I do like writing as a way of connecting sessions, but I'm like you, Patrice. I really like the one-on-one set. Doesn't have to be one-on-one, but the in-person interaction. And I really liked, Tony, when you put up that Gates model, because it sort of gave. I sort of did that already in one way or another, but it sort of gave me sort of a framework where I could say, hey, what I'm doing is on all of these levels, and what happens between session can be focused on sort of the minutia of, do you get the environment right? Do you have the routine right? Do you have the right skills, etc.? And the sessions can really focus on the deeper stuff. To open the gates of identity and beliefs, etc., etc. So I really like that. So I think my ideal Coach Me business would be something where there are integrated processes, where I have both sessions and in writing. I can even see myself doing sort of, so instead of an introductory where you just have writing because it's the cheapest, you might have sort of group things similar to Heavy Mental with live calls, and maybe smaller groups. So, 10 people or something like that. Instead of, you must have some 100 in there, right? So something like that, I would love to explore further. For now, I'm in the business of getting enough individual clients so I can drop my consulting stuff.
Wonderful. Patrice, anything else to wrap us up?
That's really exciting just to hear. I think it's exciting that we're all so different and unique too. I think that's just, again, what makes Coach.me, that platform, so exciting as coaches. And not even really knowing what each one of us offers specifically, but just that there are people who want to help and be helping other people. If there's anything else you want to ask me as far as, like I said, sales or prospecting or, I think one of the other good questions is sometimes I ask people, if you could change one thing about your business, what would it be? And I don't know if we have time to do that, but that's another good thing to think about. If you could change one thing about your business, your coaching business, what would it be? And then thinking through that. So I'll just kind of throw that out there too. And any final comments or questions? And I am always interested too, is what you're taking away from too.
Let's do what we're taking away, and then we'll end the recording. And then we're not really pressed for time, other than I like to end the recording and give people a chance to walk away if they want. Rifna, what's your takeaway, if you may?
It's a lot of food for thought. I'm listening to the others, and I'm going to need to digest more what was taught.
Got it. Stefan, your takeaway?
That I'm on the right path, and that I think I know what I need to do more of.
Makita?
But also that I'm curious to hear, to see that 4-week process that you're working.
Good.
I think my takeaway was I don't necessarily need to change my personality to do well at sales. And also, keep in mind that we're here to serve. And that's, I think if that's where the marketing and the sales push is coming from, then I think it'll be able to be authentic and not pushy or brazen, as we kind of mentioned before.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. I'm going to end the recording. Thank you so much.